Now, next example. White to play here, and I think it's the Karpov's game, and he demonstrates very typical maneuvering skills for him and great positional understanding. Where is the weak hole in the position? It's definitely e5. This is the square that could not be protected from with any pawn from the black side, right? So it would be great if we could place the knight. So far it's not possible. So the knight c3 should go near to e5 square, start working together with his brother on f3, and then white will get that square. So knight e2. Also, knight on c3 was the piece that was not doing too much anything, because this is just the squares where knight cannot get access, right? So improving the worst piece probably, and going to the e5. White pieces are starting working. Also now rooks can be doubled anytime on c-file to increase the pressure over the c6 square. And imagine now the knight on e5. So again, good harmony are starting to work. G5, black tries to avoid knight f4, but knight c1. Now knight finds another way to get to the e5. In the game, I think black played something like g4. Sorry, oops, g4. But it's even more weakens than fixes the pawn structure on the king side. Okay, maybe now white doesn't get immediate access on e5, but our plans may not... well, we can't always fulfill our plans, right? But now we get another things. e5 hole, f4 hole, and knight can go there, or later try something like bishop f1, knight g2, knight f4. It's really a terrible pawn structure for black here. Maybe could be recommended bishop a6, trying to exchange bishop for this knight. But the matter is that after knight d3, bishop takes, rook takes, g4. Anyway, black still suffering, because now c6 pawn is a weak pawn. There's no bishop. It was a bad bishop on b7, but he was doing some useful job protecting pawn c6. So where the knight should go now? Of course, only one. And how we again will regain the harmony and the good chemistry with our pieces? Everybody should go on the perfect place. So the plan is rook d1, rook c1. Rooks are starting to work. Knight goes to d3, gets access to the most important squares here, and automatically white increases his pressure over the position, with definitely clear advantage. So now let's go to another example. This is the game Kramnik against Gelfand, and Kramnik demonstrated here his perfect technique, of course. Black is pawn up, but I don't have any doubt, and any of you probably, that white has enough compensation. The matter is, how big is that compensation, right? Okay, we could, for example, play something like queen c2, rook c1, trying to pressure over the c-file or c6 pawn. Maybe knight d3 now. Also rook d1, rook c8. But as you see, the black is holding on so far, right? So it's because of only one reason. White did not use all his potential in the position. So not all his pieces are involved in the game. There is no 100% chemistry, right? So which is the piece that is not working here? Bishop f3, of course. The question is what we could do with this bishop. Okay, sometimes it's just a bishop g4 and try to here exchange, or get some squares here, right? But this bishop can have even more ambitious future than just to be exchanged there on g4. And Kramnik played queen c1. Now probably you see that bishop is going to d1 and b3, and it not will be just exchange from g4, but it will start working together with the rest of the minor pieces of the white player. Another bishop, knight on c5, well, that threatens already to jump on e3. They are working together, and problems are appearing for black. Now, queen c4 was played in the game. Okay, maybe a5 was interesting move in planning to play a4 after bishop d1 and stop this maneuver. But a5 has also its own weaknesses. Now knight b6 is without enough protection. It's just in a hanging position, and white switches now to pressure there. Rook b8, and okay, just rook e2 now. Due to this shaky position of this knight on b6, black pieces are tied up, and white just plans now rook d1 and maybe improve the position of the king too, and keep continuing to pressure there now on the d file. Okay, as we mentioned, our plans cannot be fulfilled always for 100%. But now he stopped bishop b3, but we get another positive points. In the game, as we mentioned, black played queen c4, but Kramnik doesn't care. He also lets to exchange the queens. Queen takes, rook c1, check, and now it's really a terrific initiative. And in this position, Kramnik played a little bit weak move. He just entered with the knight on e6. Okay, it still keeps the advantage for white, but it would be really much better to go, for example, or knight a6, because I want to avoid e5, e4 maneuver again, and also after e5, rook that is stuck in this corner could enter into the game somehow. We are the third rank, so knight a6 really deserves serious attention. Or just knight d3. Remember the piece activity, what is? The real piece activity. It's not just the beautiful knight on c5, but it's about pressuring the target. Now, after knight d7, okay, king f1 could be played. I like this move very much. Also, maybe white could immediately keep pinning opponent's pieces with the bishop e6 and bishop e6. So we see how dominant is the white player here. Probably it is near to the decisive advantage. Okay, now let's go to another position, and I just want to say a few words about this. It's the same subject, but we could also call it the principle of the worst piece. You know, one very strong grandmaster, Makagonov, that was living in the past century, and one of the first coaches of the Garry Kasparov. He had some own tips and recommendations how to improve position. He was very strong positionally. And one of these famous tips and recommendation was, when you have the balanced equal position, nothing of tactical and dynamical is happening, there's no checkmating attack. What you should do, you should find your worst piece and exchange it or bring to the better position. Well, actually, this is the same subject that we are talking about, right? We were talking about the piece coordination, trying to find another locations, but this is maybe just a little bit more concrete. Makagonov always was talking about the worst piece in your position. Find it and improve it. So white has, of course, serious attack here on the h-file, but queen h7 check doesn't give anything yet, because just king f8 and h8 is under control, so game is going on. So what should white do? Indicate his worst piece. This is the bishop c1 that's doing nothing, and bring it to the game. Now I could play something like bishop d6 and now creating mating threat on h7. Suddenly, more than just the queen and the rook are more pieces than just queen and the rook are entering into the attack, and black is having serious headache. Or also it could be possible bishop e5. It cannot be taken because of the checkmate, and threat is check and check. Rook a6 was played in the game, but now, as we cannot play bishop d6, white plays Bishop e5, king f8, and now in the game, I think white player had made just a mistake, not the strongest continuation he finds here, but the best move was rook e1, and white's attack is simply unstoppable. We will win some material here. Okay, so I'm threatening to win the queen, and if queen goes somewhere, probably it's a checkmate, right? I can give this check, rook d6, I can give this check, and rook h8 checkmate, right? So you see here, finally attack became unstoppable when all white players started to work together. Let's make some more examples about this subject. This is Korchnoi's Pasky game, and we easily see how huge is white's advantage. However, this is a very good defensive structure, and we don't really pressure here anything yet. Also, this knight is very good blocking piece, so supporting to its pawn f5. So somehow black has some good construction in the center, and it's not so easy to broke it. So what did Korchnoi play here? Okay, he realizes that to start some crazy attack like h3 g4, there's no need. There should be some more decent ways to play with the white, right? So probably he liked his bishops here and rooks too. Yeah, he could double the rooks. It could be an option, of course, but still, it's not so easy to break through here because this construction is still stays on. And then Korchnoi finds that, oh, my knight c3. What does it doing here? What does it do here? Nothing. There's no e4 square. It just protects the 5 pawn that is a million times is protected already. So we should do something for the knight. What we could do with it? Okay, it could be maybe very good square to enter on e6, but I don't see how it can happen so far, right? Where else we could go with the knight? And probably he starts to search for some maneuverings. Maybe knight goes to c4. It could be interesting, but finally, even if we will do this, we will lose 3 moves, and opponent will exchange just for the b6 knight, and still he's holding on. What else? And then he realized that, oh, this is the most important chain, right, in the black's position. So knight goes to h5. So our worst piece is going to the better square to be exchanged for the bishop, or force this bishop to leave from this f6 square, and then pressure on e7 will finish the game. Game ended very soon. Korchnoi continues his plan. Even queen exchange did not help to Spassky, because now white just dominates here, you see. Simply, it's a decisive advantage. Okay, we have a few more examples too, and now let's take a look at this position. Okay, this is a crazy Sicilian, of course. And here white did the same job. The Makhagomov principle, finding the worst piece and improving it. Okay, he could play maybe rook h7, but still it's not a checkmate. Okay, black still is holding on. And black's pawn chain in the center that is controlling a lot of important squares. So king is feel quite safe for now. Which is the worst piece in our position? Of course, it's bishop g2. So unfortunately, I don't see too many great diagonals for this bishop, but it definitely could stand better on c4 in order to make sure that white king is in the safe, and maybe some tactical motivations will appear on this diagonal. So answer is clear, bishop f1. Here black played something like rook d8. I was also thinking about b5, but the problem with b5 is that bishop c6 will be left without protection, and we will use this motivation for very powerful strike knight d5. Pawn takes. Probably black should try to close the position. And again, we need our pieces in the game to attack and create mating threats. c4. And I want to or open this line or force this exchange, and bishop would come now to this diagonal again. Even before doesn't help because again c5 is coming. I don't care about this pawn. Bishop is coming out, and actually this worst piece in the game finishes everything. So in the game, black played rook d8, but anyway white fulfills his plan. And this sacrifice actually is possible thanks to this bishop and thanks to this motivation. So again, the worst piece finishes the game. Here black played queen b4, and white goes for forced line. And very tricky b3 move, because he wants to push c5, so that's why he tries to push away from here the queen. Queen b4, a3. If queen would take this pawn, then c7 is unstoppable now. Queen a5. Okay, in this case, white just take on b7. Knight d7, and just rook c6, and game is over. Okay. So we had already one example when, thanks to the tactical trick, we improved the position of our piece. So here, white is a pawn up, but it's very difficult to use this advantage because this bishop is very, very bad bishop, and black has a perfect blocking position on the dark squares. So I really doubt if this pawn structure would be possible to win. And Morozevich here realizes all the problems of the position and makes this powerful blow d6. Now, if black takes bishop, white is winning, getting the new queen. And if pawn takes, this was the idea actually, and just bishop d2. White transforms his material advantage to the positional, because material advantage almost was impossible to use. And now this terrible bishop became probably the most powerful piece in the game. And after a few moves, and then queen a2, all white pieces start working. Bishops, rooks, queen wants to enter somewhere there, and white got decisive advantage. Oops. And the last example is from my own game. Let's take a look at this position. It's a very, very strange position, right? Because, okay, bishop is on g4, but it's somehow somewhere there in the hanging position, doesn't really pressure too much. This knight is out of the game because of this blocking structure. Also, I'm not very huge fan of the queen on d6, because if we want to pressure something, queen is not the piece that should stand in front of it, right? When there are rooks at the board. So it's a really a lot of we see huge chaos on this position, and we need to coordinate not just one piece, but we need to coordinate almost all of our players here. And I started this plan. First I played knight d7, okay, because I wanted to place knight on b5, on c5. My opponent played b4. Okay, then it's matter of the queen, right? So queen goes to g6, queen attacks, keeps attacking d3, but it doesn't stand already in front of our rook potentially. Queen c2, also logical, and bishop e6. If we would play here bishop e6, because bishop, we mentioned that it just does nothing, and white could push away this bishop at any moment, right? So, but now queen is stacked, and we are losing the queen. So everything should be done in order. Queen g6, and now bishop goes back. Okay, I was thinking also about e5, but bishop stays out. So no, all the pieces should go on the perfect location. And later, after playing f5, we see that already black pieces start to work together. Okay, there is a coordination again between them. Rook g1 was played in the game, and I decided to push f5 before I play f5 because to increase the power of my minor pieces. In the game, white played pawn takes a5, that I think it's really a weak move because after knight c5, black starts really dominating here over d-file, and this is just a fantastic square for the knight. So I think it was better to play c5, but problem is that, okay, c5 closes this bishop, but now another bishop has an open file, right? This e6 bishop. So we go back to this f5 move, and now we keep coordinating the pieces, improving every time. Now queen goes to f7 to use the weakness of this diagonal. King b1, and I think here we have to exchange once on c5, and okay, this is of course enters in our plan, but I was thinking about knight b8, and knight suddenly goes to a6 because on d7 it already fulfilled the job and just doing nothing here. And now knight goes to a6 to pressure those pawns, and queen will come to f7, and maybe also we will double the rooks. And suddenly we got huge advantage. And now let's compare the beginning, right? All the pieces are somewhere there, I don't know what they are doing, and in a few moves all pieces started to work. And every time we are changing their positions according to the pawn structure that appear in the game. Okay, I hope this was a useful lesson for you, and now you know a little bit more about piece maneuvering, and that you always have to try to improve them on every stage of the chess game and to involve all of your pieces into the game. It's a very good tip to play good, healthy positional chess, and I hope it will improve your results. Thank you for attention. Bye bye.